So how do you handle the stored anger that you feel inside of you because of your PhD? I know a lot of people have very exceptional circumstances and they do really, really well with their PhD, or they become a super famous professor. But there's a lot of us that have a lot of stored anger inside. And the stored anger is more of this thought that I did everything right and look what happened to me, and this still didn't work out. I remember moments where I felt really, really bad. The one that really stuck with me that I was like, man, this is nuts, was at the end of my PhD, and I went on the job market, and it was 2008, 2009, and there was nothing in terms of opportunities. And so I didn't have a job for a year and a half after. And I was thinking to myself, and it internalized with me, was this deep seated anger about the world. And it was very, very challenging. I still feel it right now. I feel like the pit of my stomach right now. I wish you could see it, or I wish you could feel it, pit of my stomach of like, I don't know if I should be talking about this. This is super, super challenging because I do feel a lot of anger towards the world. And a lot of people look at me because I'm naturally kind of more of a calmer kind of person on my outside. But I've got a lot of anger deep down inside that I'm still processing, and I'm probably going to process for the rest of my life, where you think that you're putting in all of this effort and you're doing everything kind of the way that you should be doing something, and then it doesn't work out for you. And I think, sometimes it's directed anger that you have, right, up towards a specific person and a specific thing. And that's where I go into thinking about, why would they actually do that to me? And I realize that they're processing things, and what always helps me out is going into like sympathy and empathy and thinking, oh my gosh, like these people are really going through some really dark, difficult times, has very little to do with me. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop not feeling that anger, but it helps me deal with it a little bit more. But then there's also this kind of generalized anger towards you being upset with yourself, towards you being upset with, why wouldn't anybody ever tell me this kind of stuff, towards a number of different things where you're feeling like this did not work out as planned, and this was really, really, I thought this would work out, right? And I think about, this is almost like grieving that you go through, or maybe a divorce that you go through, right? Where you're thinking about, man, I thought I did everything right. I picked this kind of thing and everything was great, and it didn't work out. This was a really rough thing for me to process. And to some degree, you kind of get, you push away the outside world. You have to have that sort of level of distance between you and the outside world. But then you got to come back to, wait a minute, like, I'm a decent person and I am okay inside. And if I have this inner strength that is going on inside of me, right? And I just kind of have this calm, patient, inner strength, where I just get up and I realize there's a lot of things that are outside of my control. There's lots of things that I can never see. There's lots of things that I will never feel, that I just can't forecast, and it's outside of my control. If I have that belief, I'm able to process this stuff a little bit more, and I'm able to go through and realize that sometimes the world just does not work out for you, right? And that is the case of most people that do a PhD. Is they get year 3, it starts clicking, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is not working out. This is not what I expected was gonna happen with it. And how do I actually process this, physically process this. So part of me is just saying, I'm okay with who I am. I'm a decent person, and I'm going to get up every day, and I'm going to do my thing. And then on the other side, I process it by looking for outlets that are healthy, right? So these healthy outlets, it's never alcohol. That's never going to help you out, right? Like, that doesn't help you out, and that's what a lot of people turn to. But it's getting into just, trying to become addicted to exercise, right? Like, really look at physical things, going for walks, right? And I think about the moments where this starts feeling overwhelming, right? And there's trigger points for me, right? Like, I'm hungry, I have been working too long, that there's just kind of like a general sadness. That's where I need to be like, okay, I need to go for a walk, I need to get something to eat, I need to sort of manage this. The entire career, people don't realize this, but the entire career is actually really, really sad and lonely, right? You spend most of your time by yourself, and you're trying to process this stuff. And so you initially, for the first couple of years, this is what happens, right? Inevitably, everybody goes to this. First couple of years, you're like, I'm just going to shoulder ahead, and it's going to be I'm going to be the toughest person around, and I'm going to get through this. Well, you do that, and then you realize, like, oh shit, what do I do now, right? And then you kind of go through this, like, moment of crisis where you think about, okay, this is my life, and I have to figure out, how do I process this? This is not normal in terms of how other people process this, but I need to figure out, how do I get through this? And what do I get through on the other side? Is it going to change on the other side? Generally, it might not, right? And so then you need to figure out, I got to manage this process. I need to manage myself. I need to manage everything else, right? So it's not just about letting the world happen to you, but it's figuring out, how do I manage this? So then I set boundaries with the people around me, as much as that, the ones I don't trust, I keep them at a more distance. The ones that I trust, maybe I'll disclose a little bit more. There is, my life is not my academic life. And I try to detach from that. And I try to realize, yes, I spend a great deal of time doing that, but it's not my life. It's not my identity. That's not what I'm tied to. I try to think about my life as actually me being a better person inside, and then also trying to help raise my kids to be a better person, help, grow with my wife. Like, all of these kind of components. And I realize I'm going to go through another crisis, right? When my kids get older and they sort of move on, I realize that is not my life either, where I have to identify and sort of manage the process of me being me. And I think you could do the same thing to manage the anger, the angst. If you were in a bad lab, for example, and things just not working out, which is the majority, take a step back and realize that, hey, those people that were putting that pressure on you, they were just not good with managing their inner self and managing who they were. They're awful at it, right? We're all a bunch of little kids running around in grown-up bodies. So what do we do? How do you process that? You take a step back and say, hey, I don't need to deal with those people again, but I'm going to think about them and say, man, what an awful life that you're going through, and how I wish that you can go through this and process this yourself, but you're not going to. But I can do this, and I can have stability in my life where I can get back up and say, I'm okay with who I am today. And, maybe that's going to change tomorrow, but I could do that today. And I'm always feeling like I'm just on the teetering of like, oh, I'm going to have a mental breakdown and all that kind of stuff. But I get back up and I try to do this. And those moments where I start feeling not so great about myself, I try to find things to direct that nervous energy, that kind of not feeling good about myself. Exercising, getting something to eat, all of those kind of things are all positive things. So that anger, it never goes away. It is a thing that you actually manage. And I want you to sort of think about that. It's like going through PTSD, right? And I think it is a bit of a form of PTSD that we all collectively deal with. It never goes away. Those moments, they never disappear, but you can manage it. Now, if you're really going through some dark moments, and this is very tough for you to listen to this at this moment, I would encourage you to go talk to an actual professional. I'm not a professional. I've just got somebody that's actually gone through many, many things before, and these feelings so many times. And this is how I actually deal with this and process this. But if you need help, go and see and get some help. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.